Righto, we'll just wait for this to start up, and then we'll get into this. Just waiting for it to fire up there. I think we're ready to roll. I think we're live. I think everything's all going on there. Well, g'day guys. How we going? We're back here again for another Facebook Live to have a chat with you guys. And this week we're going to have a chat about four-wheel drive mods and some of the best and some of the worst that I've put on my GU Patrol over the years. There's plenty of good ones, but there's also there's one or two that I certainly regret, but I'll tell you about those a bit later on. Hey, Biggles, how you going? Thanks very much for dropping in there. Greatly appreciate that. So just in case you guys, you haven't met before and haven't seen my channel, Tim Bates is my name, and I've got a YouTube channel, and I film sort of all my travels and where I go with my full drive, and provide a lot of tips and hints and that sort of thing with my travels. So that's pretty much what all my channel's all about. So that's pretty much where we are. G'day guys, here Jimbo, thanks very much mate. Jaden, Anton, thanks guys for dropping in from the UK. Look out, that's awesome mate. Thanks very much for coming in from way of UK. That's unreal. Thanks very much. So yeah, if you got others there, let us know where you're sort of coming from, and that'd be awesome. So Adam, what's going there? Removing your rear locker, I bet. Well, actually, funny you mentioned that about lockers. We'll talk about lockers a bit later on. But yeah, so where this topic comes from, yeah, the best and the worst mods. Well, we'll start always with the good stuff that I've put on my Patrol over the years. And certainly we'll really nail it down apart from a couple of the top mods that I've done with my full drive, and that's front and rear diff locks and reduction gears. Now, you don't need all this sort of stuff, that's for sure, to go and have a good look around the high country or anywhere really to go full drive. You certainly don't need lockers or reduction gears either. But I tell you what, when you've got both of them, they are fair income. They are an amazing combination when they work together. So, yeah, so front and rear diff lockers and the reduction gears. Now, the reduction gears that I've got, they're a 42% reduction. Now, what all that means is from standard, what I had before, they're 42% lower than what they were from standard. So I pretty much picked up an extra gear. So my first gear before I put the reduction gears in is pretty much like my second gear now, sort of thing. So it's heaps much lower. So, and first gear in mine now is absolutely insane. It's an amazing modification to go and do. So the whole what they go and do there, the whole cluster comes out, the whole standard cluster comes out, and a whole new cluster comes in, bigger gears, the whole shoot match. Generally got to grave out a bit of the inside of the transfer case to fit the new cluster in. But geez, they're an absolutely amazing thing, and comes very handy for certainly that slow sort of rock crawling stuff that sort of I like to go and do. So yeah, so with front and rear lockers there, and then with the reduction gears, and then it's got all the standard other stuff, with tyres and suspension. When you couple that together, makes the old Patrol there pretty sort of a capable gig. G'day Lee, how you going there, mate? Thanks very much for dropping in. Marty and Matt, thanks guys, from Marshalltown. There you go there, mate. Well, that's pretty cool. My Marshalltown's sitting in the back of my car at the moment. That's my egg flip that my old trailer I used to have, my old Marshalltown. But it goes pretty good. So, and then when I get into the worst mod, well, I really don't have many bad ones, but there's one that I'm really a standout that I really regret ever doing to my Patrol. And that's the advice that I had to shim up the rear diff. Now, the running gear in the Patrol right through from the GQ, GU, feed income, they are pretty much bulletproof, and that's why a lot of comp trucks and those sort of things run those diffs in their comp trucks, because they're just so strong and straight off the shelf. They're just an amazing setup. So, but yeah, years ago, I had the advice for me was to shim up the rear diff, and I didn't really sort of know much, so I went with that advice and thought that was a great idea. And it turned out to be the worst advice. So what ended up happening was, it shimmed up that tightly that, you know, I'd go around corners and that sort of thing. It'd be screeching as it was going around the corners. It was shimmed up that tight. And in the end, it ended up destroying the rear diff. And at that time, I had a front locker in at that stage already. And then when the shims went in and absolutely destroyed the rear diff, and then that's when the rear locker went in. I was on my very first full production DVD when that happened. I was out there with Ruthie back in the very first DVD that I did with Action, and the rear diff destroyed sort of through that trip. So in between that DVD and the very next one, which had only happened a few days later, I raced home and put a rear locker in, because, you know, if you're going to pull it out and fix it, you might as well, you know, just chuck a rear locker in. So that's the only reason why I do have a rear and front diff locks in my full drive. So that's probably one of the biggest mistakes I've made with my rig is shimming up that rear diff. Now, you know, if you're ever going to put, you know, lockers in your vehicle and you're wondering which end to put in, whether it be front or rear, particularly with the GU and those GQs, I'm sure some of the other models are probably pretty much the same as well. Only do the front. If you're only going to ever do one, just do the front. Don't ever touch the back of the GU diffs. They are just so good with the LSD in them. So that's pretty much where I'm at as far as best and worst mods. So I'd be pretty keen to sort of hear from you guys. You know, what sort of mods have, you know, you done with your vehicles over the time, and is there any that you sort of regret doing? Probably all got a couple, I reckon. So be pretty keen to sort of hear from any of those. What's going on there? Best camp spot in the Vic High Country. Well, from Phil, mate. Well, there's certainly plenty of those, and it's really hard to nail one down in particular, mate, because there's just so damn many of them. You know, I've said it a few times now about Sheepyard Flat. I just love Sheepyard Flat as on and off weekend over there on that Mansfield side. But, you know, Lacola side, Dargo side, there's just so many of them, so it's really hard to nail down the best camp spot. So, yeah, you just have to keep looking around, because I've got heaps of them and it's too hard to nail one down in particular. Ross, what's going on there, mate? What do you think of the GU with 33s and 3-inch lift front and rear, mate, on the... Yeah, look, well, that's the setup I've got. I've got 33-inch tyres, 3-inch lift on my patrol. Look, you really don't need any bigger tyres than that. 33-inch tyres, Fennican, will get you to most places. Well, you look at... If you've been following me long enough, you'll see all the places I've been through all those forward of action days. I've done it all on 33-inch tyres. It's absolutely plenty. You know, 35s, look, they look great, but there's a lot of cons with 35s. You know, engineering issues, and, you know, you've got to have an insurance issues, and so 33s is absolutely plenty. And plus keeps it legal too, with, you know, with tyre size on 33s, particularly on the GU, you can go to 33s and have no issues at all. So that's probably my tip, mate. Stick with the 33-inch tyres, and your 3-inch lift is all good. Stephen Queenie, what's going on there, mate? Love all your work, mate. Thanks very much. We've got a 2016 model GU Patrol. We love your rig and all your travels throughout the Vic and Australia. We think our rear drawers system is our best mod. Yeah, well, look, that's awesome, mate. And that's the same. Look, I've done the same with mine. You know, if you've done them yourself, that's certainly a good thing. That way, you know, you get them exactly how you want, and which I've done with mine. You know, I've got a video on my channel there of how I've recently, you know, rebuilt mine over the years. So, yeah, look, rear drawers are a very important thing, you know, with all of us, you know, with the gear we carry and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it just gets it all organised, and especially if you can keep it organised, you know, keep all your stuff in there and that sort of stuff to how you want it, and then it works an absolute treat. So, yeah, rear drawers are certainly a key to good thing to have, that's for sure. Marty, what's going on there, mate? Manual auto nowadays with an auto lockup. Yeah, look, years ago, you know, autos have certainly come a long way over the years. There's no doubt about that, mate. The old manuals were certainly holding a lot better going down steep hills than what autos ever did. But, geez, the technology's changed with autos now, and particularly with the lockup kits. If you're not sure, have a chat with Rod over there at Hollis Automatics. He'll sort you out with the lockup kits and how they work and the benefits. what Rod and Stu over there don't know about autos and lock-up kits, mate, and how they work, not worth worrying about. So definitely worth having a chat with those guys. But look, the lock-up kits, they work very, very similar now to a manual. So just depends on what sort of style you're driving and doing, what you want to do. But I've had manuals all my life, and I'll probably always have a manual. But definitely well worth having a chat with those guys, about lock-up kits. That's for sure. Jimmy, what's going 40? What's going on there? Looking at buying an 80 series that I can work on budget, max 5K. Anything I should be looking out for? Look, the 80 series, again, a great vehicle, mate. They're very, very capable vehicles straight off the shelf. Just got to really make sure you get it all checked out by, go and get it checked out by a reputable mechanic. But the 80 series as a vehicle, mate, they are a cracking four-wheel drive, very, very reliable, and certainly got a good reputation for being a very capable four-wheel drive. So, but as far as mechanics and that sort of stuff go, with that, mate, just make sure you go and get it checked out and get someone to have a good look over it. That's for sure. Joe, what's going on there, mate? Off topic, I've always wondered, did you guys work on budget? Where is it? No, they're flicking up now. Just off topic, wondering if you guys ever got paid where you've went on those forward of action trips? Well, I did back in those days. Look, they were certainly good days, and so but they've all moved on and they're doing their own thing now, and still good friends with all those guys here in forward of action, that's for sure, and all the crew, still stay in touch with all them, and they were fantastic days, and loved absolutely every minute of it. So, Lee, what's going there? Modification I need. Do you? Need new suspension. I regret not considering the age of my springs, 2006 Prado, and the weight of my gear. Lucky I have protection underneath. Well, certainly you need to, look, when you're going to go and get a new suspension kit or any sort of suspension kit, the weight factor is a big one. And when you're talking to your suspension guys, wherever you're going to go, either have your vehicle set up to how you're going to carry it around so they can get a good indication on what you're going to carry in it so they can advise you properly on the setup, or they'll certainly ask you a stack of questions about what you're going to carry, how often you go out, and all that sort of stuff. So definitely have a chat with those guys about getting the right setup for your vehicle, because look, suspension's definitely key, that's for sure, when you're setting your vehicle up to carry all the big weights that we certainly do carry around. Gary Rogers, what's going on there, mate? Great to see you live again. Thanks, mate. That chicken cook up the other day looked great. I'm starting to play with the camp cooker. That's good. What's better, cast iron, spun steel? Look, I've been asked that a few times just lately, actually, Gary. Look, I've always only had cast iron. I've never tried the spun steel. They've been around for a long time. I think they started way back in the early 1900s, the spun steel, so they've been around a long time. But I've never tried one. I'd be maybe keen to give the spun steel cast iron, the spun steel camp ovens a bit of a go. But at the moment, mate, I just love my cast iron. I've got it down pat. Everything's cast iron. The only downside really with cast iron is purely the weight factor. It is heavy stuff, and that spun steel pretty much weighs next to nothing. So there's certainly some pros and cons on both ways there. But yeah, look, I'd be pretty keen to have maybe go that spun steel and just see what the difference is and see if it cooks up any better or all that sort of stuff. So there we go. You're about to purchase one. Well, that's good, mate. That's awesome. Matt, what's going there? People with LSD rears wondering if to install front and rear lockers, why don't you install a locker in the rear and move the LSD to the front? Well, that's probably a pretty good question, and I suppose a lot of your drive probably it comes from your back wheels, because you're not always going to be in full drive, so you probably got maximum traction running through that rear diff all the time, where we haven't got that front diff maybe engaged. So I suppose that's main reasons why the LSD goes in the rear and not in the front. But as I mentioned before, if you're going to play around with one locker, you're not sure which way to go, definitely chuck it in the front and leave the rear alone, unless you wanted to put a rear in. Look, as I say, when you got front and rears, they're just absolutely fantastic combination. There's no doubt about that. Phil, what's going on? What do you think of Forward of Action now? Its content is over the past 5 years, 6 years. Do you think it's any better? Look, I look at the content that they're doing. They're doing a great job. You know, Forward of Action. They've got plenty of stuff going on. It's all on live on YouTube now. So there's no DVDs and that sort of stuff. But look, the content's still very similar. You know, they're doing some crazy stuff and pretty full-on tracks. But yeah, they're still doing the same sort of thing. So yeah, look, I watch a number of their videos because I'm on YouTube a lot, as you probably know. So I'm pretty keen to watch some of their videos and see what they're getting up to. So that's pretty much I reckon where they're at with that there, Phil. Jay, what's going on, mate? Hey, mate, just wondering, my first car stock. Would I be better off getting a good winch, or spend the money on good tyres and then put the winch in down the track? Look, you don't need a winch. You know, it just, again, you just got to come down to the style of full driving you want to do. But the really thing I like about a winch, and I've always had them for many years, it's just that peace of mind insurance you're hanging off the front of your full drive, just in case, you do get stuck. But yeah, so it's just one of those things you sort of got to weigh up, really. But it's just really nice having that winch there. It might just save you one day, or it could save someone you're going out and about with. So just got to weigh it all up, mate. But yeah, certainly get your vehicle set up with tyres and suspension is certainly a good starting point. If you depends on what tyres you got on at the moment. So get some aftermarket tyres and suspension, and then maybe look at a winch down the track. But can certainly help you out with all those if you want to have a chat to me when you're ready for all that. So Anthony, what's going on there, mate? Love your videos. Thanks, mate. When and where are we going to go camping? Going to go camping next? Well, that's a very good question. So, the restrictions have been lifted overnight, which is a good thing. So at least we can get out in the bush, only for day trips at the moment. But I'll be waiting for the restrictions to properly lift, where I can pack my swag and go and camp again in the bush. So we'll see where we end up going, mate. I'm not sure, but I've always, as I said for a while, I'm pretty keen to go back to Dargo and and catch up over there, and then make out a bit of a plan from there, and see where it all happens. So that's probably about it for there. Adam, let's go there. Judy asked, "Where is the picture behind you?" That one there, mate. That's up on top of the pinnacle. So the fire tower there, top of Billy Goat Bluff Track. That's up there. Absolutely magnificent views. If you haven't been up there before, fair income, you just got to get yourself up there. It's very easy to get in from this side, where you guys are up there, just up there on the hill, just the other side of Traff. You can easily just shoot up through Lacola, Tamboretha Road, Moroka Road, and pretty much straight into the car park there at the pinnacles there, and go. You can camp up the top there too, just up near the car park there. And so make sure, Adam, mate, get Judy in and get it packed up and get up there when we sort of can, when it's safe to do so. Highly recommend it. What's going on there? What's going on there? Prince Dog, what's going on there, mate? If you had a choice of brand new vehicle tomorrow from what's currently available, what would it be and why? That's a really good question. I get asked this a fair bit. If I was going to replace a Patrol, what would I replace it with? And that's the $1 million question, because the four-wheel drive, especially late model ones, they're just not designed to do sort of a lot of the stuff that we do, fast suspension setups and sort of thing. My Patrols and, the Toyota series, the 80 series, the 100 series, when you've got front and rear live axles, core suspension all around, I mean, it doesn't get much fair income better than that if you want to go, doing the sort of full drive I do. So I'm not really sure, what I would go for if I was going to start looking at another full drive today. It's a big call, because I've got that thing out there. I've got it built exactly how I want it. So yeah, it's a big call, mate. I'm not really sure where I'd go if I had to replace it. It's a tough call. Be pretty keen to see what you guys what would you guys think if you had to replace your vehicle? What would you end up getting with it? So what's going on there? Aussie full drive Prado 120. What's going on, mate? When Billy Goat Bluff Track close? When does Billy Goat Bluff Track close? Well, that track never closes, apart from during COVID, it's been shut. But under normal circumstances, mate, that track is open all year round. It's not a seasonally closed track at all, so you can go and drive that any time of the year when we can get back out there and go. Well, you can go back out there now as long as it's only a day trip. So there you go, mate. Yeah, Billy Goat Bluff Track, drive it any time of the year, not seasonally closed at all. Archie, what's going on there, mate? Would you rather a GQ or a GU? Well, look, either way, mate. The GQs, look, they're a bulletproof thing too. You know, the running gear in them is just fantastic, very similar to the GUs. Again, you know, same setup again. You know, cores all around, so it's a toss up. You know, the comfort and whatever in the GU just have been a bit more modern. Might be, you know, a bit better way to go, but the GQ, mate, you're fitting. You can't fault those either. So if you're tossing up between the two, depends what your budget and that sort of stuff is. You know, the GQ, they're still a cracking full drive, go anywhere, sort of a vehicle as well. So there we go with that. Jaden, what's going there? Worst mod, cheap Repco winch. Yeah, solenoid went wet and stopped working in a big mud hole. Well, that's certainly one of the keys you've got to certainly work out, particularly when it comes to winches, if you're going to use them in water and in mud holes and that sort of thing. Winches, again, have come a long way over the years. If you can get yourself a winch now that's, you know, all waterproof and got breathers and that sort of stuff, as the one that I've got out there, that carbon winch, you know, they've got all the gear on that. So, yeah, nothing worse, mate, if you're stuck in a bog hole like you were and your winch stops working, because that wouldn't be a good situation to get yourself out of, that's for sure. Chris, going on there, mate. Planning a trip to the high country in December. It's been great watching your videos. Get some great ideas. That's cool, mate. Thanks very much. Just got Petter's GVM upgrade and the Ranger and can now carry all my gear. That's unreal, mate. If you got the GVM upgrade, now allows you to, yeah, certainly carry a bit more weight there, so certainly legally. But hopefully, well, certainly by December, yeah, we'd hope to be up and running, and hopefully you know where you're going to go and get a good trip going. That'd be awesome. Yeah, good time to plan it out now. It's still a few months away yet, but and again, you just never know, you know, what the weather's going to do when it comes around December. So yeah, you can get a bit of a rough idea on where you might want to go. But as far as solid plans, it's still a bit too far out on really getting something sort of decent trip sort of nailed down. Let's go on there, trawler. Let's go on there, mate. Buy a GQ, or sorry, Archie, to buy a GQ if you love doing rust repairs. Well, that might be one of the cases with the older vehicle. You know, might rust up a little bit more, but mine's certainly not got any of that. That's for sure. Jimbo, it's going on there, mate. If I had the chance to buy Patrol, I would get the 76 series. Well, that's an interesting one. 76 series, yeah. Look, they're a certainly very good vehicle too. Look, Toyota's had a great name in four drives for many years, a bit like Patrol, but, you know, the 76 series, they're a good thing too, you know, especially getting V8 one, and certainly a cracking vehicle there as well. So a couple of good choices there, that's for sure. KTM Dave, typically ride motorbikes, do you, mate? Because back in my days, I used to ride a few dirt bikes as well. But what's going on there, mate? Thanks for sending my wife Jessica. Oh, yeah, a copy of the 2020 calendar. This is going straight to the pool room. How good is that, mate? Well, that calendar, I think, arrived only a couple of days ago. So thanks very much for ordering one of those, even though the year's pretty much done and dusted, mate. But, yeah, straight to the pool room. I like that. I'd like to see the pool room there maybe one day. What else you got in the pool room that's some good stuff going on in there? A bit like the old movie, you know, on the castle there. Everything cool there went straight to the pool room and never got used. So that's where the calendar's going. That's pretty awesome. Thanks very much for that. James, going there, 2-inch Dobinson's MRR suspension, best model ever put on the Patrol. Then look, I've got the Dobbo's MRRs on my, mate, and mine have been on there for close on 3.5, nearly 4 years now. And look, we've rebuilt them. Oh, when was that? Probably about 15, 16 months ago. Not that they needed rebuilding, but, you know, it was just to give you an option there that you can rebuild that suspension without having to chuck them away. And, you know, if you've got to go and buy a new set. So the MRRs, fair dinkum, I highly rate them. Been absolutely fantastic for the time I've had them. Absolutely, that's for sure. Lee, hang a copy of your calendar. Well, actually, I've got a couple lying around. Just try and drag one out. Well, I've got them all. I've got my laptop all sitting on them here at the moment. There they are. There you go. If you want to get a calendar, what's left of this year, there you go. There's the 2020 calendars. Still got a couple left, as Jessica and end up getting one earlier on this week. Thanks very much for that. Well, there we go, guys. Hope you've enjoyed that little live chat there. Going to probably try and do a few of these, sort of weekly if we can. I've already got a topic lined up for next week. That's going to be an absolute cracker. But look, if you liked what you've seen tonight, subscribe to my channel there. It'd be awesome, and that way, you can keep in touch with, what's going on and any new videos and that sort of stuff that's coming up. You'll get the notifications what's going on there with the channel. So I'm going to wind this up all. Hang on, I've got one or two more coming through here. We'll quickly just grab these. Victorian camper touring. What's going on there? Have Parks Vic opened all in their parks back up? You have to do a bit of check on your own there, because they're not all open, even though restrictions have been lifted. You're going to have to probably either jump on the Parks Vic website. I know they have started opening a few. There's no doubt about that, but you either jump on Parks Victoria website, or even better still, the area where you're thinking about wanting to go over the next whatever, give that office a ring, the Parks Vic office in that area, and they'll be able to tell you straight away. If you're needing some phone numbers for those park offices, just shoot us a message, mate, on the area where you're going, and I can certainly send you, all the phone numbers for those areas and where you want to go. So yeah, certainly do check them up. That's for sure, because I don't think they're quite all open, but they're definitely starting to come back online, which is great. I'm still going here, Matt. Matt, what's going on there? What do you think of rooftop tents? And my opinion, too bulky, heavy, too high. Look, they're certainly very suitable, particularly if you're going to do a lot, I suppose, up in the top end, up around croc country. But for me, that's one accessory I don't reckon I'll ever put on the roof of my full drive. But again, that's just personal choice for myself. I don't like the way, big, bulky, wind-catching things up there on your roof. A lot of weight up there on your roof. They take up your roof rack. And for me, it's just something that I'll never own. I'd either go into a tent, camp trailer, or keep my swag on the ground. But, I'm not overly keen on rooftop tents. But, again, that's only personal choice. And, there's certainly plenty of them out there. You just see how many are, being used. And so certainly people like them. And so, yes, each their own on that one. But that's sort of just my take on rooftop tents, mate. So there we go. Lee, you want a calendar, do you? And a stubby holder too. Righto. Thanks very much for that. We'll chat about that bit down the track. But righto, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. Again, please subscribe to the channel there if you like what you've seen. And if you've got any comments that you want to, any other videos or topics you want to have a chat about down the track, chuck them in the comments down below. But I've certainly got plenty more. But I'll be back next Wednesday night with the next topic about some camping gear hacks. So stay tuned for that one. But in the meantime, thanks very much for everyone for tuning in there tonight. Absolutely appreciate all the questions and everyone dropping in there. So we'll catch you guys next week. In the meantime, have a good week, and what's left of it, and stay safe. Good on you guys. Catch you later on. Hooroo.